It was Sri Lanka versus New Zealand, or as they can call it from now on, the Glenn Phillips show. It was that kind of a batting effort from New Zealand, who won the toss and opted to bat first. And after a disastrous power play, 25 for 3, it seemed like that decision wasn't the wisest. And Glenn Phillips said, wait for it, and scored his second T20I century. 113 runs in the back 10, 65 in the back 5. It was Glenn Phillips or nothing for New Zealand. They reached 167 for 7. Hello and welcome. You're watching Cricbuzz Live. My name is Tanay Tiwari. With me, Harsha Bhogle, Joy Bhattacharya. Gentlemen, welcome. First of all, congratulations are in order. Not to Glenn Phillips, but to me. I predicted it correctly. I said 165. They reached 167.
You just sneaked it in this time. Now you're going to tell me that this is what you do. I'm sorry. I don't buy it. I'm a skeptic still.
You are, but the one thing that the New Zealand fans won't be skeptical about at all, Harsha, is the ability of Glenn Phillips. Came into bat with the score under 10, 2 wickets gone, Williamson gone, and for him to bat like that, pace his innings like that, this is really special.
I mean, I was just looking at where he was at the halfway mark. Halfway mark after 10 overs, he was 30 of 27 balls. He's then scored 74 of the back 37. And that's not easy, given he'd run a lot between wickets. They ran a lot of twos, if you remember, most of them courtesy the Sri Lankan fielders in the deep. I think this is a phenomenal innings because when you take this innings away, there's nothing. And poor Pathum Nissanka sitting in there thinking he was 12. It was a dolly. It was as easy as it comes. It was as easy as Gaurav Kapoor ordering risotto. And he put it down.
Yeah,
and he put it down, and see how expensive it's turned out to be. But what I liked the most was the innings builder. You know, normally you tend to say go hard in the first 6. When you watch T20 cricket in Asia, in our part of the world, flattish decks sometimes, short boundaries, you go hard early on. I'm just looking at the innings builder here. First 5 overs, 19. Next 5, 35. Next 5, 48. Last 5, 65. It just tells you one gets set, you get to 160, they've got 167, and I think they're the happier of the two sides, by the way. Sitting in the dugout at the moment. I mean, unless Sri Lanka get off to a great flyer, go and make 45-50 in the power play without losing a wicket, get going, I think they've got a tough one coming. But 2 things about Sri Lanka today. They'll rue their fielding, especially because I thought they read the wicket perfectly against Finn Allen, against Devon Conway. Just took pace off. It was a fabulous strategy to start off with, but one arm did not help the other.
Yeah, it didn't, and we'll get to Sri Lanka in just a bit. But Glenn Phillips again reinforcing the importance, Joy, of a set batter being out there, especially on these big grounds, especially this World Cup.
Absolutely. 13, 27, and then so strike rate of almost just a little over 100. And then he goes to a strike rate of almost 200, where he reaches the race. That acceleration, that's exactly why what Harsha is talking about. The fact that this whole thing that we do in the early, that they're scoring up front, then there's a middle overs go down in the end. That's a formula that works in Asia. It does not work here. And that's a huge difference. Therefore, the way we even read and interpret games is going to be very different. When you look at a 6-over score in Asia and what you predict from there is very different from what you're going to call in these grounds, in these conditions. And I think that's the beauty of the World Cup moving from tournament to tournament. And I thought that's why Phillips was very important, because if you look at it, what's the next highest score in the team? 104. The next highest score is 22. The next highest score after that is 11 from Santner. And the next highest score is extras with 10.
Yeah.
You know, that's what it is. Nobody else got anything of any note. And it's not that they didn't play. Daryl Mitchell batted 24 balls and couldn't reach a strike rate of 100. And yet it was an important innings because he held up one end while Glenn Phillips went mad at the other end. And I think that is what this tournament is telling you. There is place for people to hold. And therefore, even if Williamson is not succeeded today, or Steve Smith is still in the Australian side, not playing the first 11, perhaps there's a place for them.
Yeah. Harsha, you were saying something?
No, I'm listening to Joy. It was a long sentence with no Joy questions or Joy.
Into
that.
Yeah, correct. But the one,
167. 167. You look at the Sydney cricket ground in recent times. Par score is about 171, 172. 180 has been made, but 171, 172. You'd think this is a par score. I don't know if the way the Sri Lankans bowled, I think the track's a little slower. I think I'd like to see how Santner and Sodhi go on it as well. But two things about it. I think this was a game of crouching starts, wasn't it? There was no hidden dragon, just crouching batsmen there. But there was one crouching batsman and one crouching bowler, Joy.
Yeah. Hasaranga, I was wondering how much low. I think he will be getting annually. I think we should have an award for it. It should be called the Kedar Jadhav Award for bowling low.
Yeah.
And I think this year Hasaranga is clearly number one. I mean, if he ever does limbo, there's this dance called limbo where you go under a pole. I think he was practicing for limbo, like going down like that.
He goes any lower. I don't think you can classify that even as crouching. It's something else completely. But if you have a look at that... Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I think he was looking to cut the bounce as much as possible on an already low deck, saying, don't come under me and hit me out of the ground for six. So I'll go as low as possible. The question is it a gimmick or is it helping him get wickets? You notice when he was going low, his direction was a bit awry. My personal feeling is much like with Kedar Jadhav, the low ball does absolutely nothing for him. Sometimes you see Ravi Bishnoi coming round the wicket and going round. You see Ashwin doing some. I don't think it's doing anything to the ball when it leaves the hand, which is what you need. It doesn't matter what contortions arrive before the ball leaves the hand. The question, does it help you leave the hand? I'm not completely convinced. What I liked about the crouching part was actually at the non-striker's end. He was taking strike like a sprinter.
Yeah.
Because he knew he had to sprint between wickets and he knew that there was no spirit of the game involved. He had to have his bat behind the crease. So he had to sprint entire 19 yards to get a run. He was not trying to run 18 yards to get a run. Okay, stuck record. But here's an interesting thought. Will people continue doing that? Almost start low and start like a sprinter?
Maybe. That's an interesting food for thought. But let's have a look at Sri Lanka's bowling attack, who started off really well. As Harsha mentioned, they were spot on with their matchups. The power play was brilliant, 25 for 3. And then, Joy, where did they lose plot? I mean, it was, of course, Glenn Phillips' spectacular knock. But they also seemed to just let things go. I mean, the fielding didn't help, of course. But even in the bowling, they did they try a lot of things, man?
No, I think, look at Thikshana. Thikshana went for about 9 or 10 in his first 2 overs. Then he goes for a lot of runs. He went for 27, 28 runs in his last 2 overs. And I think that's what's happened. All the bowlers, Sri Lanka would look at this and said, Rajitha giving them 23 with 2 wickets in 4 overs, they would be a huge bonus for them, given the fact that they've just come into the team.
Yeah.
Lahiru Kumaru has always never been known to be a death bowler. The moment Rajitha got wickets up front, they gave him that 3rd over. That meant that Kumaru was back-ended. He had to bowl later. And he just isn't the kind of bowler who's a restrictive bowler. And I think that's the problem, that Thikshana's success up front was fantastic for them, but he couldn't give them anything right at the back. Hasaranga, they finished off in the middle, trying to finish the order, trying to get another wicket. Hasaranga also bowls with the death for them. Death has been a problem for Sri Lanka. With all these frontline pacers out, it's even more of a problem. So I just think they couldn't control the innings.
Yeah, and if you have a look at that bowling attack again, Harsha, the one thing that stands out is on a track where there was so much grip that Kasun Rajitha was bowling those slow balls and they were gripping and spinning, and yet to have Dhananjaya De Silva bowl just 2 overs, did they miss a trick there?
I think the moment Devon Conway went away, throughout that partnership, there were only right-handers batting, and they thought maybe the off-spinner against the right-hander may not be a great matchup. Maybe they'll go hard at him, so they took the off-spinner away and tried to bring somebody else. But Joy's point about not having a death bowler is valid. Madhushanka was a very good death bowler, the left-hand quick who we saw in the Asia Cup. He's not there. They don't have the pace of Chamira or Madhushan. So what do? They don't have a death bowler. Lahiru Kumara is not the best, but he has to do it. Yeah. And that is why they had to redo Thikshana's game plan and hold him back for the end, which is not his strong point. Yeah. He likes bowling 2 in the power play, sometimes 3, and bowl through the middle. But today he had to bowl at the back because they just don't have a death bowler. And I don't know, I think 167 might just be enough, on this track. It might be enough. And it's largely because they didn't have that death bowler to counter the late surge.
Yeah, 168 for Sri Lanka to get. Let's have a quick look at their batting attack. They've got the guns there, but the guns haven't really been firing, and that's been the worry. So from here on, we play that game that I'm so good at, and we get to go again, the prediction game. How many are Sri Lanka getting in the power play, Harsha?
I think the person who thinks he's good must start.
Yep.
Which means well has to start?
No, wait.
Sorry. All right, I go first. I say New Zealand bowl well, and it's 35 for 2.
43.
43. Harsha.
I'm going sort of midway through.
Okay.
I'm going 39 for 1.
All right, this promises to be an interesting chase. Remember, it's a top of the table clash. Whoever wins, either New Zealand stay at the top of the table or Sri Lanka go there. 168 for them to get. We'll, of course, be back at the 10th over mark with Cricbuzz Combox. That's all on Cricbuzz Live. Thank you, Harsha. Thank you, Joy, for joining in. Thank you to all of you as well. We'll see you super soon.